While I was planning a birthday surprise for Chad, I came across a post online that made my heart sink. The guy I like already has a girlfriend, but I'm thinking of confessing to him on his birthday. Should I? The comment section was full of question marks. To gain sympathy, the poster kept updating her thread. I'm a medical resident at a top-tier hospital. My education and career prospects are far above his current girlfriend's. His girlfriend got into college through a recommendation program, no exams, no effort. You can imagine how unearned that is. We've known each other for almost a year, and he's never shown us her photo. She's either ugly or he's not that into her. His girlfriend's the clingy type, always posting emotional essays online. I show my love through actions, not words. We've known each other for 332 days, and our TikTok streak has lasted 300. I'd rate myself an 8 in both looks and personality. I'm emotionally intelligent, and we just click at work and in life. I opened the photo she'd attached. My eyes stopped on the man's wristwatch. Even without seeing his face, I knew. It was Chad. When we broke up, everyone tried to comfort me. It's just some harmless sharing online, they said. It doesn't even count as emotional cheating. But I shook my head. All those meaningless little things they shared, at their core, they were simply ways of wanting to be part of each other's lives. And that endless urge to share. That's what love truly is. Chapter 1. I hadn't told Chad I was coming back this time. I wanted to surprise him for his birthday. Half an hour ago, he sent me his location. A new hot pot restaurant had just opened, and he and a few coworkers were planning to try it after work. If it's good, I'll take you next time, he texted, as he always did, reporting every little thing whenever he had a moment to breathe. I turned off my phone and changed my destination. By the time I arrived, they hadn't been there long. Wearing a cap, I chose a seat behind their table. Chad came out from washing his hands just as a girl approached him, holding 2 small dipping bowls. This one's their signature sauce, she said brightly. And here's the mix you usually like. I made it for you. Chad accepted it without hesitation, tasting a bit. It's pretty spicy. You shouldn't have any. She smiled, her lips curving up with delight. Thanks for the warning. The 2 people sitting nearest to me lowered their voices, but didn't bother to hide their curiosity. Are they seriously not together yet? Hard to believe. Back in school, so many girls liked Chad, and he kept his distance from all of them. Guess fate finally caught up with him. Don't even start. The guy's been buried in work, but still finds time to help Chloe check her night shift reports. They're going to be a power couple for sure. Chloe's clearly into him too. It's been less than a year and she's already washing his clothes. Fate's chosen girl. A perfect match. She even washes his clothes herself. My phone suddenly buzzed. The post had been updated again. Having hot pot with the guy I like. He's so thoughtful, he even tasted the dipping sauce first and warned me it was a bit spicy. How can anyone not fall for a man like that? A new comment popped up almost immediately. No matter how great he is, he's still someone else's boyfriend. You should sort out your morals before acting love-drunk. That reply disappeared within minutes. I put my phone down. Chad and his coworkers were already eating, laughing, and complaining about everything from their college major choices to the misery of last night's shift. Then someone suddenly changed the topic. Hey, isn't Chad's birthday coming up? Should we go out and celebrate? Chad shook his head. Got plans that day. It's just a birthday, no need to make a big deal. Oh come on, if Chloe doesn't suggest it, you're not coming, huh? Chloe, say something. Chloe set down her chopsticks with a small pout. His girlfriend's celebrating with him alone. What am I supposed to be, the side act? Girlfriend? Wait, I heard rumors before, but you actually have a girlfriend? My gaze dropped slowly. This was our 8th year together. We'd already made it past the 7-year itch, met each other's parents, and settled into a calm kind of love. So whether or not he posted pictures of me online had long stopped mattering. Besides, Chad never posted anything anyway. Still, in that moment, I found myself holding my breath, afraid of what he might say next. I took a sip of water, choking as it burned my chest. "I do," Chad said at last, his voice low and steady. "But we're in a long-distance relationship." Chapter 2. I still remember my first time visiting Chad's college when we had just started dating. He insisted on dragging me to class with him, as if he couldn't wait for the whole world, especially his professor, to know I was his girlfriend. A student in the front row simply turned around to ask, "Is it raining outside?" But Chad completely ignored the question, his hand tightening around mine as he beamed, "How did you know my girlfriend was here?" He's not like that anymore. Now, every word he says carries an answer, a twist, and something left unsaid. "That girl, Chloe, finally spoke up." "So what is it? You can't find anyone better? Or are you just too tired to realize how pointless it is to hold on to something that gives you nothing in return?" Chad was silent for a few seconds. "Love isn't about profit and loss." "Then let's talk about feelings," Chloe said, her voice trembling. "Does she even know how exhausted you are? How much pressure you're under? Don't you ever feel even a little regret?" Her words broke a little at the end, full of grievance and bitterness. No one said a word after that. I don't know how long the silence lasted before Chad finally spoke again. "I do feel regret," he said quietly, "but I'll force myself to let it go. And honestly, I'm not in a place right now where I can afford to think too much." I closed my eyes for a moment. It was my fault. I was the reason he had regrets he couldn't erase. The reason he had to force himself to let it go. The reason he was trapped in a life where he couldn't afford to think too much. But he seemed to have forgotten that we started all this because we wanted to make each other's lives complete. All right, this isn't the time or place to talk about this," someone said awkwardly, trying to lighten the mood. "Chad, what do you want for your birthday, anyway?" Chloe set down her chopsticks and spoke bitterly. "I don't know what the rest of you are getting him, but I do know what his precious girlfriend gave him last year, a letter. 2 sentences long. Not even a complete paragraph. 2 sentences? Seriously? Isn't his girlfriend supposed to be educated?" Chloe glanced at Chad and continued, a mocking smile on her lips. "Apparently not. It just said something like 'stay safe, and always be by my side.' I mean, come on, if you can't write something romantic, at least copy a quote from somewhere." I gripped my chopsticks tightly, not even realizing when the boiling soup splashed onto my hand. Last year, on Chad's birthday, my advisor had me running data late into the night. It was the first birthday I hadn't spent with him since we got together. I'd wanted to write him a long, heartfelt letter, to show just how much he meant to me. But after writing and rewriting it, I realized all I wanted to say came down to just 2 simple lines. "Stay safe. Always be by my side." And now, those words I'd written with so much sincerity had become their joke over dinner. In that moment, I knew Chad would never be worthy of forgiveness. Chapter 3. I stood up and pulled my suitcase out of the hot pot restaurant. A single autumn rain in Hang City was enough to bring on winter. Wrapped in my hoodie and jacket, I wandered aimlessly down the street. Not far ahead, a long line stretched outside a shop, the same mooncake store I'd always loved. I remembered senior year of high school. I was bundled in my thick coat, huddled at my desk, when I casually told my deskmate, "I'm craving mooncakes. The ones from September Bakery are the best, pork with pickled veggies," she said. "Too bad delivery makes them cold." She handed me a biscuit. "Just eat this for now. I'll buy you mooncakes next Mid-Autumn Festival." But it wasn't her who remembered. It was Chad, who sat behind me. Before the evening study session, there was a steaming paper bag on my desk. Without even looking up, Chad said in his calm, steady tone, "I went out for a bit. Eat it while it's hot." That night, when the exam rankings came out, I was still 1 spot ahead of him. My deskmate teased, "Chad, she beats you every time." If I were you, I'd poison her mooncake. He laughed, eyes fixed on me with quiet determination. I'm not here to compete with her. Later, we promised to go to the capital together. I got in through recommendation, and he was determined to fight for it in the college entrance exam. But fate had its own plans. A few points short, he had to stay behind in Hang City. The day he saw me off, my parents didn't cry, but his eyes were red. Will you forget me if you meet someone better? He asked softly. I'll work hard, I promise. I hugged him. I won't. From the moment I said yes to him, I had already decided to hold his hand through every season of our lives. That Christmas, I took the overnight train back from the capital to surprise him at his school. A few of our high school friends helped trick him into coming to the plaza. When the giant gift box opened and I popped out, Chad just stood there staring at me. He stared so long I thought he wasn't going to say anything. What's wrong? I asked, laughing. Aren't you happy to see me? He suddenly pulled me into his arms. Anna, we're going to get married, right? I really want a home with you. That way I can see you every day. I'll love you forever. All those beautiful memories flickered through my mind like scenes from an old film reel. Up until yesterday, I had still refused my advisor's offer to stay in the capital. Because I couldn't bear to leave Chad alone again. What I didn't know then was that a forever is a word people only use when love still exists. And Chad hadn't been alone for a long time. Every day I wasn't by his side, every holiday I missed. He had already found someone else to take my place. Chapter 4. I went to Chad's apartment. There were still a few things I needed to take care of. The computer in his study was still on, the screen frozen on a TikTok chat window. The girl he'd been talking to was a medical resident who joined the hospital the same year as him. Their streak had just hit 300 days. A tiny cartoon flame waved at me from the corner of the screen, mocking me, or maybe my stupidity. I scrolled upward through the messages. This sticker is so cute, it looks just like you. Did the head nurse yell at you again today? No, she just has a loud voice. Chad, you're such a nice guy. Yuri nice too. Chad, look at this meme about how miserable medical residents are, it's killing me. That's basically our life. I noticed you skipped breakfast again. Too busy. Didn't make it in time. Yuri, lucky you met me. I'll bring it for you. Chad, are you married? What are you talking about? Of course not. Oh, I just heard you have a girlfriend. But as long as you're not married, it's fine. Don't overthink it. You've got the night shift tomorrow, right? If I survive my shift without any disasters, dinner's on me. Then I hope it goes smoothly. Tomorrow night we're having dinner together. If it's too late to go home, I'll crash at your place, same rule as always, you get the couch. Being good. As payment, I left some fruit on your desk, washed and ready. Grateful heart. Anytime. See you tomorrow night. Okay. From sharing funny videos about medical school life, to making silly AI-edited photos of each other, to now, talking about everything. Their constant, intimate messages made me feel smaller with every scroll. They talked about their high school years. About college. About a new coffee shop that opened around the corner, or the sunset after work. When Chad was too busy following his supervisor into the operating room to even reply to my texts. He still somehow found time to comfort her after a patient yelled at her. This whole year, I'd pitted him for all his endless night shifts, for barely sleeping at all. I never disturbed him unless I absolutely had to. But Chloe could text him anytime, anywhere, even scolding him for almost losing their streak. While I worried about his health, buying him easy breakfasts and reminding him to rest and exercise. He was out celebrating her, surviving another night shift, with street food. And then there was the worst day of my PhD so far. In the lab, I discovered contamination in a petri dish, enough to destroy 2 months of work. I completely broke down. I couldn't help it, I called Chad. He hung up. Not even a single message in reply. I thought he was busy. But later I found out that day, he was at a concert with Chloe, her very first one. No interruptions allowed. Now I finally understand, the contamination in that petri dish only destroyed 2 months of my work. The contamination in our relationship destroyed 8 years of my life. Tears slipped down uncontrollably. Then, on the computer screen, new messages appeared between them. Are you sure we can't spend your birthday together? Next time. Patting your head. You promised. Next year, we're celebrating together. Yes, ma'am. I wouldn't dare disobey you. And then that post, her post, was updated again. Dinner's over. He walked me home. We almost admitted our feelings today. I'm kind of a guiding type of lover. I help him realize what his heart really wants. But it's not the right time yet. I still want him to discover it on his own. The picture was taken from her rearview mirror. Chad's hand resting on her head, his lips curved into a faint smile. The comments came pouring in. I've seen this update 3 times already and I can't take it anymore. You have to go for it. You're amazing, don't wait for that guy to figure it out himself, he doesn't deserve it. Exactly. You're beautiful, smart, successful, why let his girlfriend keep him? Go get him. No hesitation. If you don't, you're a coward. Love should stop where decency begins. I'd suggest you walk away. There's no first come, first served in love, but there is right and wrong. Keep your voice down. Is this something to be proud of? If you're going to be shameless, at least do it quietly. I typed out a single message to Chad. We can't go back. Then another message came in from him, probably meant as a joke. My birthday again? You skipped last year, and now this year too. My poor Anna's always so busy. I turned off my phone and didn't reply. Chad. From now on, there won't be any of me in your birthdays. Busy or not, there won't be me. Chapter 5. After I finished packing everything, Chad appeared at the door. His face was full of smiles as he teased, "Didn't you say you didn't have time to come back? Were you trying to surprise me? Too bad I already saw your ticket information on the app. Wouldn't it have been better to just tell me sooner?" He reached out to hug me, but I stepped back. I'd almost forgotten, we'd always shared the same ticket booking account. When I told him I wasn't coming home, he must have checked my travel history right away. What kind of surprise is this anyway? He laughed. We were all just having a good time, and you suddenly show up out of nowhere, gave us all a scare, honestly. Chloe stumbled in from outside, her eyes roaming over me with thinly veiled displeasure. Someone behind her quickly jumped in. Sorry, Chloe's had a bit too much to drink, she doesn't mean anything by it. She was just curious to see what Chad's girlfriend looks like, that's all. She made us all tag along. Chloe, drunk or pretending to be, pointed at me and asked the group, "Tell me, who's prettier, her or me?" Within moments, Chad came out from the kitchen with a glass of honey water. You're prettier, okay? Now sit down and drink this before you start another scene. Pacified, Chloe casually opened the shoe cabinet, took out a pair of slippers, slipped them on, and walked straight into the bedroom as if she owned the place. Chad sighed helplessly and shook his head. She's drunk. Don't take it personally. I lowered my gaze, my heart turning cold. From the moment he walked in, Chad hadn't noticed that all my things were gone. The cups in the kitchen, the clothes in the wardrobe, the cushions on the couch. The way he and Chloe interacted was so natural, so practiced, that anyone could tell this wasn't the first time. Sensing something was off, Chad tried to explain. I live close to the hospital, so my colleagues sometimes crash here after shifts. I know you don't like anyone touching your stuff, so I never let them into your room. Yes. I never let strangers into my room. Which is exactly why I couldn't understand. If Chad knew I hated strangers touching my things, how could he share something far more personal, his affection, with one? And in that moment, I could have sworn I saw the faint curve of a smug smile on Chloe's lips. It felt as though, right in front of me, they'd silently performed a scene together. A wordless little act of comforting the mistress. Chapter 6. I made up an excuse and went back to the bedroom, planning to talk to Chad once everyone left. My rational side told me I needed to give this 8-year relationship some kind of closure. But the moment I closed the door, I heard his colleagues in the living room taking turns persuading him. Chad, you've got a long road ahead of you. You can't keep holding on to things like 8 years together, meeting the parents, or duty. That kind of stuff is meaningless. You deserve someone who's truly right for you.
Yeah.
I mean, she cares about you, sure, but you care about her too, don't you? Relationships go both ways. Even if you don't end up with Chloe, you should be with someone you actually like. To be honest, and don't take this the wrong way, but Chloe's miles better than her. Look at her tonight, has she even smiled at any of us since we got here? If that's how she treats her boyfriend's friends, what kind of temper do you think she has in private? And think about it, Chloe turned down so many guys because of you. On Valentine's Day, she got drunk and cried for you, and where were you? Off in the capital with your girlfriend, didn't even bother coming back. You're heartless, man. Valentine's Day? I remembered that night. I had a fever and was hooked up to an 4 at the hospital. Half conscious, I felt a sharp sting in my hand, the drip had finished. Chad was sitting beside me, head down, staring at his phone. I tugged lightly at his sleeve. Only then did he snap out of it, apologizing over and over. He said his boss had just reminded the team in the group chat about Monday's presentation. So throughout this past year, whenever Chad was with me, how many of those moments were real? How many came from a warm heart, sincere words, or true focus? Chloe's post was still being updated. Finally met his so-called girlfriend. Ordinary and dull. What's worse, they're not even engaged yet and she's already living in his place. She's a local but doesn't even go back to her own home. Girls with proper upbringing like me could never accept that. Someone in the comments didn't hold back. Are you crazy? What's wrong with a couple living together? If your education is real, it just proves that studying a lot doesn't make someone smarter. Are you even human, or just trolling for attention? Even if I were dying tomorrow, I still wouldn't dare publicly admit to being a side chick, let alone praise myself for it. You should take a good look at yourself and your so-called proper upbringing. If you're that delusional, go book an appointment at your own hospital, I'm seriously scared for you. Chloe fought back furiously, they're not even engaged yet, how could she move in with him? It just proves she's the desperate type, no self-respect at all. For a moment, I was almost impressed by how double-faced she could be. A legitimate girlfriend living with her partner was shameless. But she could sleep in a male coworker's bed and still call herself well-bred. Before long, I heard movement at the door again. Chloe had woken up, and they were getting ready to leave. I stepped out of the room, watching as Chad saw them off and came back carrying a bag of fruit. They were out of your favorite cherries, he said. So I bought some apples and grapefruit instead. I looked down at my phone. Chloe had just posted a new update, showing off a box of big, bright cherries. It was the last box of cherries, and he bought it for me without hesitation. When I lifted my head, Chad was in the kitchen washing fruit. He moved around busily, just like when we first started dating, thoughtful, gentle, caring. He had always been good to me, even during this past year when his heart had clearly drifted away. But why had it drifted? We were so close to going from school uniforms to wedding vows. Why did he have to stop halfway? I almost opened my mouth to ask. But then I noticed how he kept wiping his hands, glancing at his phone over and over by the sink. And in that moment, all the answers stopped matching. Anna, don't mistake the flowers in the trash for the little prince's rose. They don't belong there. And neither do you. Chapter 7. He set the plate of washed fruit in front of me. The apple was cut into neat little pieces, and the grapefruit had been peeled clean, arranged carefully in a bowl. Eat, he said softly. I'll get you cherries tomorrow. Before I could answer, his phone rang. Chad instinctively looked at me. I raised my head. Why are you looking at me? Do I have your caller ID written on my face? He turned slightly to the side and answered, giving only a short When he looked back at me, there was guilt and avoidance in his eyes. Chloe's not feeling well, he said. I need to go check on her. You should get some rest. I tilted my head, curious. Isn't she a doctor herself? Chad hesitated. Not in the full sense yet. I smiled faintly. And you are? If not, why would she call him? His expression darkened. In all these years, it was the first time I'd ever seen a look of irritation on his face. Anna, she's alone here in Hang City, no family, no support. I thought you, of all people, would understand that. We're colleagues. You don't have to overthink it. Oh. I nodded. There was nothing left to say. Before, I would have told him, if someone's not feeling well, they should go to the hospital. And if it's serious, call emergency services, not someone else's boyfriend. But now, I didn't want to say anything at all. We went downstairs, one after the other. He got into a rideshare. I pulled my suitcase and hailed a cab a short distance away. Through the rearview mirror, I watched as Chad and I moved in opposite directions. From once walking hand in hand, full of joy, to now, silently drifting apart, both hearts worn and tired. Then the rain came, heavy and sudden. Just like the downpour during our high school sports day years ago. He had been about to run the 3,000 meters. His name echoing through the loudspeakers. But instead, he'd shown up in the empty classroom where I sat alone. Can you spare a little time for me? He'd asked, eyes bright and full of sincerity. I want you to see me win first place. I'd stared at him, dazed, then nodded, almost instinctively. A second later, he grabbed my wrist and we ran out together. The warm summer air rushed against us, thick with the scent of youth and recklessness. But in just one day, the pure, fearless love of our teenage years had completely faded away. Do I feel regret? Of course I do. The love was real. The happiness was real. But I finally understood, I was never the one person he couldn't replace. So I don't want him anymore. Nor anything I once dreamed of having with him. Two streetlights can illuminate each other once and still fulfill their purpose. There's no need for confrontation, no need to demand explanations for betrayal. Chad and I are truly, completely over. Chapter 8. The afternoon sunlight was calm and steady, and even the fallen leaves in the yard seemed at peace. Only the constant vibration of my phone broke the quiet, each time, a different unfamiliar number. That night, I had blocked every way Chad could reach me and hid away at the small inn my aunt owned. People came and went, many of them couples, caught up in the rush of new love. Every time I looked at one of them, that fleeting wave of emotion would twist through me like pain I couldn't escape. For the first time, I truly understood those girls who had been betrayed in love. The ones who saw everything clearly, yet still tried to convince themselves to hold on. The ones who had already found the truth, yet couldn't let go. Words couldn't describe the past few days, the ache, the bitterness, the helplessness. I kept questioning whether I even deserved to be loved at all. Whether I was somehow the problem. Even though deep down, I knew it wasn't my fault. But someone's betrayal always drags the other person into endless self-doubt. Meanwhile, Chloe's post was still being updated. How could it not be fate? She spent 8 years with him to get here, but I only needed one. So if the person you love already has a girlfriend, don't give up. That girl really walked away. Heaven truly rewards those who follow their hearts. I believe every girl should fight for the person she loves. Don't give up because of society's labels. Honestly, the real mistress is the one who wasn't loved or chosen. Besides, being in a relationship means helping each other become better people. I'm sure I'll be a much greater help to him than his ex ever was. And to be honest, I heard that girl got into college through some recommendation program. Her family must have connections. She better not give me a reason, or I'll expose her. People like us who earned our spots through exams deserve justice. The comment section exploded. Tagging the sharpest tongues here, come see this one. I've officially seen everything. A mistress who not only stole someone's boyfriend but now wants to expose his ex. Two wrongs don't make a right. But hey, if Miss Homewrecker can take down Miss Nepotism, maybe the scales balance out. Education fairness is more important than your messy love life anyway. Or maybe she's just trying to change the subject, to make her cheating look justified. If you're so bold, drop her name. I'll dig up everything about her. I swear, seeing posts like this cancels out all my past sins. Can we please stop getting these toxic posts on my feed? One more and I'm deleting this app. I haven't unclenched my jaw since I started reading. My insults are too harsh, so I'll see myself out. From what I know, in the hospital system you're nothing compared to those with powerful parents. And as for morals. Oh wait, you don't have any. If he chose you after weighing pros and cons, he's even worse than you. What exactly are you proud of? Out of all the furious comments, Chloe only replied to one. You can really dig up her info for me. The day before I went back to school, I sat in the courtyard for a long time. Until every light in the inn had gone out. Then I heard footsteps behind me. It was the woman staying in the first room on the second floor. I quickly stood up. Is there something you need help with? She smiled. I saw you sitting out here for quite a while. I wanted to see what it is about this place that makes you so unwilling to rest. To witness your own collapse and rebuild yourself again, night after night, it must be exhausting. I looked up sharply, my mouth opening, but no words came out. I'm a regular guest here, she continued gently. Your aunt and I go way back. I'm also someone who's had to heal. I lowered my eyes, not knowing where to start. She leaned back in the rocking chair, her gaze calm and clear. Some people simply forget where they came from. Once they have what they wanted, they forget what it felt like to stand on tiptoe, peeking through the window, longing for her. The truth is, he really did love you once. And it's also true that he couldn't resist the thrill of something new. Neither of those things are your fault. You're still young. Life is a series of storms you'll have to walk through. But you must stand with yourself, not against yourself. Don't keep blaming yourself. Haven't you already suffered enough? I shook my head. I just don't understand. Everything between us used to be so smooth. He was such a good person. He was good to me. So when I discovered he'd cheated, what broke me most wasn't the betrayal itself. It was realizing that there really would be no future for us. She replaced the cold glass of water on the table with a cup of warm tea. Life is made up of many stages, she said softly. Even if he once scored 100, and now he's only worth 1, then he's a 1, not an average of 50. Don't use the past to excuse the present. Don't forgive all the hurt just because of a few happy memories. The girl you were at 18 wouldn't love the man he's become. I sat there in silence, staring blankly into the night. She was right. Chad had changed long ago, quietly, gradually. The girl I was at 18 would never have loved this version of him. Just as the boy he was back then would never have let me drown in guilt and despair, forcing myself to stay. Only to leave him later, full of regret and disappointment. Go get some rest, she said finally. Remember, love others in moderation, but love yourself with everything you've got. Promise me you'll take good care of yourself. Chapter 9. The next afternoon, I boarded a flight back to the capital. Before turning off my phone, I uploaded a 36-page PDF and tagged both Chloe and Chad in the post. Who should you really share things with, the shape of the clouds, that new milk tea shop by the road, or the extra half spoon of salt in today's cafeteria dish? As I reread their chat logs, every little change from the past year replayed in my mind. The cracks had been there all along. Like how, when Chad first started his residency training, he would find any excuse to call and joke complain to me. But gradually, those calls stopped coming. I thought he had simply gotten used to it, or that he was too busy. Like how he used to let me pick every restaurant, but suddenly began recommending must-try viral spots to me. Like how someone so reserved and proper suddenly started quoting online memes. Whoever you share your little joys with is the one who holds your warmth and affection. That's why, eventually, I started to notice the distance between us. The subtle moments when his focus drifted elsewhere. During our video calls, he'd calmly fill out her medical charts as we talked. When I lay in a hospital bed, my hand bleeding from an 4 needle. He was too busy comforting a drunken, crying Chloe to notice. And when he went to that concert with her, her first ever. He didn't even have time to reply to my single message, "What's wrong?" And then, the last box of cherries. By the time I landed, my post had exploded across every platform, topping the trending lists. Everyone was debating one question. What really counts as cheating? Is it only cheating once they've slept together? No. Even without crossing physical lines, without the so-called betrayal of the body. A simple act of sharing, contact a little too frequent, a little too intimate, is enough to make an 8-year relationship fall apart. In the comments, someone asked, how can the author remember every single detail so clearly? I thought about it for a long time and finally replied, because I once loved him so much. I remembered everything, the glances, the words, the smallest gestures. And now those memories loop endlessly in my mind, reminding me, over and over, of Chad's betrayal. The comment section was on fire. Justice really exists, karma let the main girl catch the mistress herself. My faith in the universe is restored. Who is this poster? 36 pages and not a single wasted line. While the mistress is busy deleting her posts, the main girl drops a full annotated report, queen behavior. Shouldn't be hard to identify a resident from a top hospital who joined last year. Funniest part is, the side chick herself asked people to expose the main girl. Her colleagues are already gossiping next door. The cheater's crying and claiming innocence, but no one cares. Chapter 10. Chad stood alone outside my dorm building. He looked like he hadn't slept for days, his eyes bloodshot and weary. Are you satisfied now? He asked hoarsely. Can you at least give me a chance to explain? There was a trace of irritation in his tone, like he was indulging a child throwing a tantrum. I didn't stop. I walked straight past him and into the building. Anna, listen to me. Chloe and I, it's not what you think. Chad knew perfectly well what he had done. I had only taken away the things that belonged to me. I had only blocked his number. I had only ignored him for a few days. And yet, he panicked, calling, texting, apologizing non-stop. He told me not to misunderstand, that he and Chloe were nothing more than work buddies. But he forgot. I hadn't accused him of anything. So why was he explaining already? Because deep down, he knew. He knew what he'd done with Chloe might one day destroy us. And still, he went ahead with it. Gambling on the chance that I wouldn't really leave. It wasn't that he didn't understand what he'd done. He just wasn't afraid of losing me. But at this moment, when he finally saw me again, he realized, for the first time, that I might truly be gone. He had never imagined that outcome. And now that it was real, he couldn't accept it. For 2 whole months, whenever he had a spare moment, he would rush to the capital, waiting outside my lab for hours, only to hurry back again. And I acted as if I never saw him. I ate, I slept, I worked, seriously, quietly, as if he didn't exist. Once, while he was nearby, his phone rang. It was Chloe. Chad, did you talk to her? Did you make her delete the post and apologize? Before she could finish, he hung up. He looked at me, eyes filled with wounded sincerity, as if begging me to see his effort. Chad, I said suddenly, stopping in my tracks. That day, at the hot pot restaurant, you remember it? I was there too. His eyes widened. Panic flashed across his face. I heard every word, I said softly. Every topic she brought up, you answered. When she mocked the birthday gift I gave you, you didn't even try to stop her. You two kept your streak going for 300 days. Don't tell me you didn't know what she was posting? Their selfies. Their vague, flirty chat logs. Their little vlogs from nights out together. Chad kept shaking his head. No, it's not like that. She said some patient kept harassing her. She asked me to pretend to be her boyfriend to scare him off. Then why didn't you tell me beforehand? I was afraid you'd get angry. I lowered my eyes and let out a small sigh. See? You already knew I'd be angry. And yet you still chose to hide it. To play her boyfriend anyway. Tell me, even if that were true. Was there really no one else who could have helped her but you? Chad didn't continue the topic. His voice trembled as he asked, almost pleading, if we could not break up. You've already gotten your revenge, he said. I'm willing to risk my entire career to win you back. I know I handled things badly, but I swear I was going to draw a clear line with her. Please, believe me. Revenge? I couldn't help but interrupt him. Chad, the one who's truly hurt in all of this is me, the me who loved you sincerely for 2,982 days. I'm not doing this to get revenge on you. I'm doing this to give her an answer. Anna, we didn't do anything that betrayed you. Chloe and I have already paid a price you can't imagine. I froze for a moment, holding back the rising emotion in my chest. So this was it. Chad wasn't here to apologize. He didn't even understand what he'd done wrong. On her way home, she saw a puppy blinking at her. This morning's dumplings were bigger than usual. The wind on Nanshawn Road messed up her hair. And tonight's stars are extra bright. I thought back to their endless, meaningless exchanges, then looked up at him. All those little things, they were never really about the details, Chad. They were her way of inviting you into her life. That's how we started too, remember? But now you're using the excuse of being a friend to secretly enjoy the thrill of another woman's company. Why did you give her the last box of cherries? You're not stupid, you know exactly what that meant. I took a slow breath. Chad, there's no going back for us anymore. The late autumn wind in the capital cut straight through my coat, sharp and cold. Even the dullest person would have woken up by now. I pulled my scarf tighter, brushed past him, and walked straight into the dorm without looking back. Chapter 11. Chad didn't give up. He said that once, he had waited 2 whole years for me, until we finally got together when we were 18. So now, he wasn't afraid to spend even more time trying to win me back. He was either on the train between cities or on his way to catch it. Every few days, I would see him standing downstairs by my dorm, dusty and tired, holding bags of my favorite snacks and pastries he brought all the way from his city. The dorm supervisor used to greet Chad with a warm smile. She knew him well from how often he came by. But after learning some of the truth from my roommate, one day she suddenly stopped me as I was about to go upstairs. Sweetheart, don't soften up just because a man says a few nice things to you. You have to remember the ugliest part of who he really is. I've been through it myself, remember this, those who love will endure, those who don't will betray. If you keep being soft-hearted and forgiving, you're only feeding the greed of someone who's already lost his conscience. I nodded, memorizing every single word she said. A little over a month later, Chad finally stopped showing up at my school. Then my phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Enough already. Things between me and him were never as bad as you think. You just haven't experienced worse. You have a whole cake in your hands, and the moment one tiny piece falls off, you cry and throw the entire cake away. What are people like us, starving, desperate, supposed to do then? You're just lucky, that's all. He's already done so much for you, what right do you have to blame him? It turned out that during one of Chad's shifts, he'd been so exhausted that he accidentally prescribed a patient an antibiotic they were allergic to, cephalexin, which caused anaphylactic shock. The patient nearly died. Even though there was institutional protection for trainees, Chad's repeated mistakes and the negative attention he'd brought to the hospital cost him his guaranteed residency spot. After one setback after another, and all the traveling back and forth to see me, Chad finally collapsed. Since the incident, Chloe could hardly find a chance to speak with him. So when he fell ill with a high fever and was home alone, she decided to take one last chance to fight for him. But she ended up abandoning her night shift without permission to go take care of him, ignoring calls from the nursing station. In the end, both of their careers took a nosedive. What happened afterward no longer had anything to do with me. I only heard that their reputations at the hospital were both badly damaged. And that their fall had opened up new opportunities for others who truly deserved them. Sometimes, I still caught sight of that familiar figure. In the cafeteria, under the lab building, at the dorm entrance. But I no longer stopped for him. Chapter 12. Half a year later, I received an offer from the Mayo Clinic in the US. It marked the beginning of a new, challenging chapter in my life. On my very first day at work, I ran into an old acquaintance, my senior from the same research program. She was surprised that my relationship with Chad had ended in such an unexpected way. "Oh my God, you have no idea how many people used to envy you back then. But honestly, I still envy you now, envy how decisively you cut things off." I smiled as always. Everything echoes eventually. Anyone or anything that once hurt me has only made me stronger. But deep down, I felt a quiet wave of emotion. Because for the longest time, I too had lost sight of who I was. All I could do was wait. Wait for daylight, for peace, for clear skies. There were days I was hopeful, and days I wasn't. Thankfully, time is a calm river. It quietly carries away all the stories that can't go on. Including that rush of first love at 18. That fearless, reckless youth. And including the relationship where I once fought so hard to prove he was the right one for me. 2 years later, one afternoon, I went with Jason to the local clinic to pick up his prescription. The moment we stepped inside, I heard people arguing. And when I looked up, I froze. It was Chad. He was surrounded by an angry group of people accusing him of prescribing overpriced medication for kickbacks. "Who even gets kickbacks at a small community clinic like this?" someone shouted. Jason, still a little feverish, squeezed my hand and whispered, "Anna, let's just go home. You just got off a flight, you must be tired. I'll come back tomorrow." Then I felt it, a burning gaze on me. I turned around, and our eyes met. Chad's eyes went red instantly. His lips trembled, like he had 1,000 things he wanted to say. But it was far too late. I calmly looked away and tugged at Jason's hand. "Let's go to the hospital now. You shouldn't delay treatment, I'll go with you." The moment we stepped outside, Chad somehow broke free from the crowd and rushed toward me, shoving people aside. Jason was startled and quickly pulled me behind him to shield me. Chad stared at me with a desperate, hollow look and suddenly blurted out, Do you regret meeting me?" I smiled lightly. "No. If I erased even a single moment of my life, I wouldn't be who I am today." "Then do you still hate me?" "You must hate me so much." It was as if Chad had fallen back into that lowest point of our past, his emotions spiraled out of control. "It's all my fault. It's all my fault. Anna, you must hate me to death." I tilted my head slightly, puzzled. "I honestly can't remember how much I hated you back then. Just like now, I can't quite remember how much I ever loved you." Chad's head snapped up, his eyes wide in disbelief. I exchanged a quick glance with Jason and said politely, "Sorry, my boyfriend's not feeling well. We'll be going now." Then I took Jason's hand and walked straight out of the clinic. Chad stood frozen where he was, like a puppet with no strings, letting the crowd shove and curse at him. Maybe if I turned back, I would have seen his face wet with tears. But I didn't. Because by then, I had already walked through one bright spring after another. Through lush summers, misty autumn rains, and snow-filled winters. All without him. There was no need to look back anymore. No one who's truly meant for you will ever be missed. Those who leave were always just passing through. And may everyone brave enough to end something be rewarded with a brand new beginning.